By all accounts, Rex Chapman has led an incredibly successful life. From the time he was a young boy, it was clear he was destined for greatness. In high school, he was called the Boy Wonder. He was the single best high school basketball player in the state of Kentucky and won prestigious awards like Mr. Basketball of Kentucky, like the Gatorade Player of the Year, the Associated Press Player of the Year, the McDonald's All-American Award. He was even inducted into the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame. In college, he was a star. He signed on with the University of Kentucky and scored nearly 1,100 points over the course of 2 years, helping to lead the Wildcats to an SEC title before leaving as the first-round draft pick for the Charlotte Hornets. That led to an amazing NBA career, 4 teams, 12 seasons. The Charlotte Hornets, the Washington Bullets, the Miami Heat, the Phoenix Suns, and he even played on the U.S. national team. That would have been enough success for one life, but when he retired from basketball, he reinvented himself. He became a social media star. He started a Twitter feed with all sorts of amazing commentaries and comical images and videos. Today, he has more than 1.2 million followers on Twitter. He started a podcast, and this week he's releasing a new show on CNN+. By all accounts, Rex Chapman has been incredibly successful. And yet, he doesn't see it that way. He sees himself as someone who has fallen from grace, someone who has failed himself and the people he loves most. He sees himself as someone who's working really hard to make it back out. You see, in addition to being a phenomenal basketball player, and in addition to reinventing himself, Rex is also a recovering addict. During his time in the NBA, he sustained multiple injuries that required 10 surgeries to repair. It seemed like he was always fighting against his body, fighting to recover, fighting to get better, fighting through the pain. And his doctors wanted to help him to be able to play, to be able to follow his dreams. And so they prescribed Vicodin and oxycodone, which were at first helpful, but then quickly spiraled into an addiction that ran out of control. He got to a place where he was chewing 50 pills a day just to get by. And things frayed. Relationships splintered. His basketball playing diminished. He began gambling away all of the wealth, the nearly $40 million he had earned over the course of his career. Rock bottom came when he was arrested for stealing $15,000 worth of electronics to fuel his addiction. Thank God, Rex got help. He went to rehab. He recovered. But even today, he's haunted by that painful chapter of his life. That's why when the New York Times profiled his new show this week, the storyline was not, "Amazing basketball player has a new show on CNN+, or "Check out Rex Chapman's bringing it." Instead, the byline read, Rex Chapman isn't sure he deserves good things. Rex Chapman is not sure he deserves good things. How can that be? How is it that someone who is so clearly talented, who's worked so hard, could even question whether or not he deserves his success? And while it's easy to look at him and say, how is this possible? How is he asking this question? The more important thing for us to reflect on is we ask this question too. We look at our lives and we ask, do I deserve this? Did I do okay? Am I okay? Or sometimes the opposite. Why is this happening to me? Why do I deserve this? What have I done? All of us have a vision for what our lives should look like. A narrative for how our lives should go. We have a story we tell ourselves. From rags to riches, pulling ourselves up from our bootstraps. Fairy tale endings that we get to ride in on a white horse. Save the day, find true love, and ride off into the sunset of happy ever after. We've been brought up on stories. Stories of linear progression. We believe that our lives should just go from better to better to better to better, that it should be a straight trajectory. And more than we believe that our lives should be linear, we believe that we should have control, that we should have the ability to shape our destiny. But life doesn't always work like that. No matter who you are, no matter how many blessings you have, each one of us is granted not just blessings in this world, but also struggle, also moments of difficulty. And the challenge is when we get to those moments of struggle, we hold that struggle and we look at our narrative of what should be, and there's pain not just from what we're dealing with, but from what we think we should have, what we think should be. And we internalize that because our life doesn't match up to our picture, because our life experience doesn't match up to what we feel like we deserve, there must be something wrong with us. There must be something wrong with me. Maybe I don't deserve good things. And that's why Passover is so important. Passover comes along and we tell a story not just of liberation, but of struggle, of challenge, of difficulty. We start off that story with a paradoxical song. Avadim hayinu, hayinu, lefaro b'mitzrayim, mitzrayim. We were slaves in Egypt, we were slaves. To Pharaoh in Egypt, we were slaves. It's deceptively joyful. Why? Why this song? Why this beginning? We were slaves in Egypt. Our tradition reminds us we were once in a place of struggle, in a place where we could not control our destiny, in a place where we were trapped, in a place where we had no power, in a place that didn't match up. And that's not a point of shame. That's a point of origin. Avadim ayinu ata b'nei chorin. We were slaves then, but God made a miracle. God brought us out of Egypt. God led us out. Even though we were in the depths, the lowest of the low, we came up, we came out. We found our way towards freedom. And so the Passover Seder reminds us that life isn't about your struggles. Life isn't about when things don't match up. It's about what you do about that. Passover reminds us that the quality of our life is measured in our progress. And so we tell that story not just on Passover, but on every single day. Every day we remember and we tell that story. Which brings me back to Rex Chapman. After his difficulties, after his struggles, he recognized that part of what made things so hard for him when he was in the depths of his Mitzrayim, in the depths of his despair, in the depths of his addiction, was that he didn't have stories of people who had made it through. And so he started sharing his story, first on his podcast. And then he realized it wasn't enough to just share his story. He needed to invite others to share their stories. So he started inviting stars and professionals and leaders and athletes to share the moments that they found themselves in Mitzrayim and the way that they walked out of that difficulty. Players like Eric LeGrand, who was a Rutgers college football star until an unfortunate tackle resulted in being paralyzed from the neck down. Eric recently shared about the power of being invited to share his story and to speak with someone like Rex Chapman, who was open about his own experience. As he shared with the Times, when somebody else has been through a rough patch or overcome adversity in their lives, and they've been able to get through it and impact people in a positive way, it makes you open up. It makes you feel that sense of comfort. It gives you the strength to move forward. Life doesn't unfold according to our plans. But when we find ourselves in Mitzrayim, it's not a sign that we've failed. It's just a sign that we're on our way towards the promised land. Please rise, page 184.